Well, good morning, fellow classmates. It is the 19th. It is Saturday, March 2022 at almost quarter before 6 in the morning. Well, what the hell am I doing this for? Because of the materials that we are studying these days and the materials that are being flying past our eyeballs, it seems only relevant, extremely relevant, that we would talk more of this. Professor would like to talk about literature in its own literature terms, but this would be really political science 101, and more so than that when you need to talk to your political professors about it. It's a thing that you guys had never gone through. Actually, there's a few other history professors. Yeah. World civilization, Western civilization would be one. Check your history logs um, for classes for the next term because you're going to be going on some interesting trips through our world's history to gather more information of what your brain doesn't know what happened before you. Some of us old farts have walked into campus and lingered on into the classrooms. We found out that sometimes there's other gaps that we don't have. And it excites me at my age because at your age I didn't have the perspective or the context nor the will or the appreciation, even with the horror that's going on around, just how precious history is. A note to Professor T. I'm glad that he's picked up 1984. Not quite sure about Brave New World, but Brave New World we're barely hitting into, but 1984 we just may be. I know you guys will be glued on a few occasions onto the set or wherever you're looking at right now concerning about what's happening out there. And keep this in mind. All this was set up well before you. World history is where you need to get your start of your perspective and your context. Then work your way into a more concentric circle. That way you're able to understand what you're looking at here. But also keep in mind that you can also have a little fun in it as well. Because there were certain music out there and TV shows and movies that reflected the times. And some of those are going to be dark and heavy. And some of those are going to be lighter than hell. I swear, every time there's a new generation, there's new stuff being pumped out there every single day. Some of it's recycled because the older folks remembered more to retell the tales that they've gone through. I have placed too many damn videos on my own YouTube channel. Diary of the Mentally Health Challenged. This will may not this will drive you insane. Just don't watch it too much. But it's my life story out there. I'm not hawking it. I'm just saying it. I just need all my damn life story out there just in case I get it. I buy it. And it's a necessary outing for me to express myself before anything else happens. But my observations are my memories of what I've walked through, what I've read about, and how history was plying around me and didn't even realize it. bottom of the Cold War era. I had seen the wall go down. I had seen President Reagan in the 80s challenge Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And the Berliners, they went nuts. So when Russia decided to be just Russia and not the Union of Soviet, hell with it. The USSR, Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic. Da. It is with that they officially broke up the government to create a new government within the Russian Confederation. And those who had been part of the empire found themselves independent nations all over again. Ukraine, one of them. And now we got to deal with Putin and his dreams of the former empire shaking apart left and right. But we had made fun of this back in the 60s. We had made, well, you guys were all aware of the James Bond stuff happening out there. The bad guys with their empires running. And government agencies trying to nail all those spies and everything else. But there were spies out there. Somewhere in the eastern portion of the United States, or probably in Langley, there's a museum concerning about the spy equipment of the former CIA operatives that used during their campaigns in the Cold War. And it was a deadly game during that time, too. Reading 1984 is heavy enough as it is, so I had to go for the Cliff Notes. Because I know how complicated and heavy this particular book was, almost as bad as War and Peace. And that I haven't challenged yet. I have read other books, and I had seen other things happening in my lifetime. I was getting back to the television shows. There was a British show called The Prisoner. Now, if you're a sci-fi fan, you've heard of this one. Back in the 60s, Patrick McGowan. He was an American actor, but he had a British accent. He could flip-flop from an American to a Brit. And his particular show kind of dealt with the identity situation that 1984 does. 1 second. I have to include the clip to this one so you can see the opening of The Prisoner. Pay attention to the dialogue and pay attention to the action around. Look at the metaphors that are happening around. Patrick McGowan wrote this specifically. And it occurred to him that individuality and freedom are a keystone to what a person is. And to keep following it, keep following it to your own doom. He had a limited one season of the show itself. That's how they're able to do their shows back then. You also understand. You also pay attention to the numbers that they have. Who was number one? There was always a new number two, or maybe there was a ongoing number two for a short time. One of those number twos came back. Leo Kern. For those who've actually heard of him, maybe you've heard of this, Rumpel of the Bailey, and maybe of several shows that he had been on. A very well known, very stout actor, and well loved. He was number two, but they always kept switching number twos. Until the last two episodes that kind of revealed who number one was. A quick flash on the camera, it kind of revealed number six, didn't it? Himself. Controversy among the fangs regarding this situation, but we're still dealing with individualism. We're still dealing with identity. If you want to call it existentialism, be my guest, but at this point, it's still relative. The entire series was built for a man trying to escape a system. He came from one system and placed into another system. Now, how is 1984 relevant to this? Is it's Cold War, its mentality. That's still, we're dealing with symbolism left and right. I had seen what real symbolism was. Not pretty. I had seen what wars were like growing up as a kid. The ending of Vietnam was a young kid could not figure it out. An older adult would be in shock during that time and then in relief because nobody would be going across the waters. We've already had enough protests going on in the land. Protesting the government and then protesting the soldiers who went on behalf of the government, who had no choice because they got drafted for a war that should not have happened in the first place. But I'm not going to preach any further on that one. I just wanted to say this. I just wanted to say what was on my mind concerning about what we're hopefully going to be talking about Tuesday. If we were in a political science class or a history class, and stay away from the literature just for one day, what the relevancy I see concerning about Putin and his insanity compared to what's been happening in the past, putting things together in my head, it's no wonder I'm still having sleep issues. Because the one thing that scares the living crap out of me that he can always use, and that brings out everybody else from the woodworks, is the nuclear option. We've all seen the tapes. We've all seen how it works. Fission reaction in these missiles and these bombs, that they still have been trying to eliminate the stockpiles to a point. Now, back in the 60s, we had something called the SALT treaties. The presidents were trying to sign the nuclear proliferation treaties to make sure that we didn't go crazy with the arms race. Hell, I think they were still doing it back in the 70s and close to the 80s. Because we did not want the earth to be blown up like hell. That's what scares us right now with the Ukraine situation. Why the United States will not get into it. I mean, thoroughly into it. I mean, with the planes that they requested, launching from a NATO position into Russia to do something. And if they happen to pull out the nuclear missiles, the warheads. Game over. That means we're in for it, boys and girls. The isolated fantasies of Huxley and Orwell trying to tell us what they want would be moot under a radioactive cloud. And all those times you had a drill in your classes for a damn shooter coming on. We didn't have it back then. We worried about the damn bomb coming down our ass and blowing us to kingdom come. We took cover. It was the only thing they knew how to do. Just to keep us from blasting the radiation a bit, but not much. We were going to die anyway. So, enjoy the weekend, and I will see you Tuesday, guys.